Can you provide us with a brief explanation of what you mean by sentimental business cycles?
Yes, sure. So sentimental business cycles is a term that we're going to use to describe movements in the cycle that are unrelated to fundamental. And when I say fundamentals, I usually talk about shocks like to demand or supply, like total factor productivity, fiscal or monetary policy shocks. So here we're trying to identify shocks that are related to sentiments, and there are autonomous changes in consumers' confidence.
You argue that mass shootings within the US can have macroeconomic effects. How can this be, and what are some of the more powerful effects that you found in your research?
Well, mass shootings are having macroeconomic effects because we use them as an instrument for shocks to confidence or shocks to sentiments. So what we find is that actually these shocks to sentiments are going to affect the economy because they're going to lead to precautionary savings, so they will have a negative demand effect. And this is going to lead to a fall in industrial production, a fall in demand, a fall in consumption of durables and non-durables, and it's going to lead to an increase in unemployment. Now, what we also find, which we think is very surprising, is that the monetary policy is reacting to these shocks. And actually what we find is that even if we look at narrative approaches to identify monetary policy shocks, even these narrative shocks react to the sentiment shock. And this is something which is very new in the literature, and it's very surprising. Finally, the last thing that we thought it was very surprising, and we didn't expect to see, is that the sentimental shocks we identify are non-deflationary. So one would expect that a fall in demand would make inflation fall, but this is not what we observe in the data. And this is going to be very challenging in a theoretical model to explain why this occurs.
And what are some of the implications of this research?
The implications of this research is that we have to think about sentimental shocks more seriously than we have previously thought about. We have to understand what is their propagation mechanism, and we have to understand what should be the optimal response of policies, mainly monetary policy, to this kind of shocks that we have kind of neglected so far.